My lords, ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome the Chairman of the Spectator, Mr. Andrew Neil.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me give you a warm welcome to the most illustrious awards event of the political calendar. Good to see you all again. Many have attempted to emulate this event. None has ever managed to rival it, much less to replace it. So it's good to see you here. I'm delighted to say that what is true of these events is also true of the Spectator magazine, which in editorial and commercial terms is in rude health. Indeed, as some of you will know, very rude health. The Spectator believes in profits, and it makes them. After 2 tough years following the financial crash of 2008, we are now back into decent profit and hoping to make even more in 2012, provided the politicians don't screw it up any more than they've done already. We now sell copies across all known platforms in the universe. We have over 60,000 traditional newsstand and subscription sales, another 4,000 paying customers on Kindle, many in the United States. Indeed, the whole digital revolution has opened up the world to the Spectator, including our new Spectator Australia edition, which is going great guns. Another 1,000 pay-to-readers on iPad. That is about to soar with the launch of our new iPad app later this month. Our website is visited every month by 350,000 unique users, visiting a total of 2 million pages. You add all that together in this old magazine, founded in 1828 by the man who ran the advertising department of the Dundee Advertiser. In all of its guises, in any one month, the Spectator's content now reaches over 500,000 people round the globe, and it's still growing. And many say its influence has never been greater. 20 ministers of the current coalition government subscribe to the Spectator, including 13 cabinet ministers. The remaining ones will be tracked down and made to read if they can survive the big words and the joined-up writing. Recent surveys have suggested the Spectator is now Britain's most influential political magazine. We, of course, are too modest, indeed even in the Spectator mode, indifferent ever to claim such an accolade, but it's probably true. One of the interesting things, though, is that the more influence the Spectator has at home and abroad, the worse things seem to get at home and abroad. Now, I'm sure this is just a correlation and not a causation. It's more likely that politicians are refusing to follow the Spectator's advice in its entirety, which I think is a pity, since the current editorial content is as robust, incisive, rigorous, and original as it's ever been in its long years of existence. And the man responsible for that is the editor, Fraser Nelson, and his small but perfectly formed editorial team. One of the joys in recent years, for as long as I've been associated as chairman with these events, has been working with our partner, Threadneedle. They have been the perfect partners for an event like this, and we have always worked seamlessly with them. And I would like to invite Campbell Fleming of Threadneedle to come up and say a few words. Campbell, please join me.
My Lords, Members of Parliament, Mr Deputy Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Threadneedle Parliamentarian of the Year Awards of 2011. And Andrew, thank you once again for that highly informative, warm and very friendly and kind introduction. I'm delighted that the Deputy Prime Minister, Mr Clegg, is our special guest this year. And thank you, Nick, for making the time to be with us. I'm going to bore you with a few events and a few comments later during dinner, I can assure you of that. Like you, I'm deputising this evening for our chairman, Mr Simon Davies, who has been closely associated with these awards for 8 years. He's in Asia in business, trying to get some more export money into the country for us, which I'm sure he'll be very successful at. And in a spirit of coalition, we've split Simon's usual role this evening between myself and our Vice Chair, Sarah Arkle, who'll be up here a little bit later. It's a shame the Prime Minister couldn't make the event tonight because he could have learnt how to do a proper Aussie accent. And as many of you know, we've been working with the Spectator for this event for, this is the 8th year, and we're delighted to be involved in it. We've witnessed some magnificent events. Last year's 25th anniversary dinner with a new coalition and a new Prime Minister doing a great job dishing out awards was truly outstanding. But my personal favourite, as a keen yachtsman, had to be Lord Mandelston sharing the stage with George Osborne after Yachtgate. It's pleasing to see so many people here again. That heady brew, though, of politicians, the press and city firms at a dinner at Claridge is perhaps not chiming too well in this new age of austerity, but anyway, let's just out and enjoy ourselves. 2011 has witnessed some absolutely extraordinary events that have now become overshadowed by the European sovereign debt crisis and a potential global recession. What started as a Greek tragedy dramatically morphed into an Italian opera, and let's hope it does not finish in a French farce. But in this extraordinary year where England rightly became the #1 test-playing nation, who knows what might happen next? Might the Chancellor take a call from Angela Merkel calling for a potential joining of the sterling? Who knows? The continuing global crisis has provided journalists with great copy, with politicians with many sleepless nights, and for poor old fund managers, many, many headaches indeed as we try to generate some decent returns for investors. So after a night of celebrating terrific political talent and effort, Threadneedle wishes and asks that the combined intellect in this room goes back tomorrow and gets on with getting all our economies back on their feet, as well as restoring confidence in these nations. Thank you very much.
Campbell, thank you very much. And on that last hope, I would simply prepare to be disappointed. The Spectator is a radical magazine, but it also likes its tradition, one of which we have upheld tonight. Shirley Williams was late for the start of the event. Shirley is always late, but she always turns up, as we knew she would, and we're glad to see her tonight. It is time to enjoy yourselves. The awards begin in 90 minutes. Thank you very much.
And now, will you please welcome your host for the evening, the editor of The Spectator, Fraser Nelson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Fraser Nelson, and I am midway through losing my voice. I worked out just at the starter. So if I descend into some kind of Godfather-style crawl at the end of it, you'll have to forgive me. Welcome to these, our 27th Parliamentarian Year of the Awards. And it's great to be back here in Claridge. It's great to see so many of you. Apologies if the tables are a bit squeezed, but we handed the door policy over to Brodie Clark, and he went on a bit of a kind of mission where he wanted everybody to come through, but he didn't really check the invites. But what we lack in table space, we will make up for in food, drink, and, of course, entertainment. And for this, I'd like to thank Threadneedle, our hosts, and also Paul Roger, who supplied the bubbly, just as important. But, of course, the real fizz for tonight will come from our defending champion. Last year's Politician of the Year, he's kindly agreed to come back tonight and hand out the awards and basically be our Debbie McGee for the evening. So can I invite the man described by one of our judges as the First Lady of the Coalition, the Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg.
First lady, honestly. Fraser, thank you very much. First, I should say that my comments that I'm going to give to you this evening have, like all coalition government speeches, been handed to Oliver Letwin first for proper checking. So I must apologise to the bin men in St James's Park because they will have heard all the jokes before. It's wonderful to be here as a Europhile, a defender of human rights, as a green energy loving liberal. It's to be at a Spectator event is like a home away from home. Last year, you very, very kindly gave me an award. I think about the only accolade I've actually received from anyone in the last year and a half. But nonetheless, you haven't pulled your punches. Some of you may remember that front cover from the Spectator a few months ago, where it was suggested that I was behind this dastardly plot to to put the United Kingdom on Berlin time. Now, I just want to make absolutely clear, there is absolutely no truth in that whatsoever. In fact, as I said at the time, meine Damen und Herren, diese Geschichte ist kompletter Unsinn. Now, as a Liberal Democrat, I am of course used to defending what are often widely unpopular views. You may actually have seen some reports recently that on a flight to Egypt in an aeroplane, I was harangued by a woman who just harangued me about the Human Rights Act. She went on and on and on about it. And at one point, I just had to interrupt and say, "Look, Theresa, we've just got to agree to disagree on this." These are joking aside, these are very, very, very serious times economically, politically. We've seen the sad end to two great public eccentrics just in the recent weeks. Silvio Berlusconi, of course, no longer Prime Minister in Italy. The burial of Jimmy Savile recently. Sprayed in gold, covered in jewellery, famed for their marathon sessions. We'll miss you, Silvio. In fact, actually, that genuinely reminds me of a true story, which I can't tell, or haven't been able to tell until now. This is an honest-to-God true story about Silvio Berlusconi. The first time I met him, in fact, the only time I met him, was at an OSCE conference in Kazakhstan last year, in the sort of frozen tundra of this new capital that they've built in Kazakhstan. And I was shown into a meeting room, and I started very earnestly with, Europe has got to do certain things to deal with the great competitive challenge of Asia. And he just suddenly looked at me and said, "I have slept with more women than your Prime Minister." So it was at that point that I knew that the Eurozone was in secure, safe hands. Look, one final note about my party. It has been a very challenging time for my party, the Liberal Democrats. We've been through, obviously, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of downs over the last year and a half. And Ming and Charles and I were talking earlier. It is quite a challenge leading quite a disparate bunch of Liberal Democrat MPs. I mean, people say to me over and over again, look, leading the parliamentary party of the Liberal Democrats is really like herding cats. So I really wanted to announce here to you first, exclusively, that I have decided to replace Alistair Carmichael as our chief whip with John Hemming's wife. Well, some of you get it, at least. Honestly. Finally, can I just, on behalf of all of us, Fraser, thank you, thank Andrew, thank all of you for what you do at The Spectator. I don't agree with a lot of what, in fact, I don't agree with most of what you say. And you certainly don't agree with most of what I say. But the point is this: these are very, very uncertain times. There's an enormous amount of anxiety about. There's a great deal of economic insecurity about as these very tumultuous events unfold around us. And of course, politicians need to kind of hold firm and do what they think is necessary to steer us through these very, very turbulent times. But it also, I think, is a real challenge to the press, to you guys in the press. And I think we need you more than ever to challenge us with integrity and with intelligence and with courage. And I think, whatever I believe about your views or vice versa, I think The Spectator is really notable for being a publication which always writes with great intelligence and without fear. And that is something which I think is very much valued by everybody in this room. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. We will continue to challenge you as long as you promise not to speak so much German in the future. It's funny to think, this time last year we were all gathered together in this huge sort of Gaddafi-style tent over there in South Ken. And it's so much has changed in that last year. The coalition was still being described as a love nest. The Lib Dem opinion poll rating was in double digits. And the Prime Minister, of course, arrived late, saying he'd been kept awake at night by a new arrival in Downing Street, who woke up screaming in the middle of the night. And since the growth forecasts have come in, that's now George Osborne's job. He does it regularly with them feeling. And it's also funny to think that this time last year we were actually expecting an economic recovery. I mean, now things are so bad. 15% of the population are so depressed that they're thinking of moving back to Poland. I mean, we cannot have that. We need them to stay here. But while it has been a grim year in many respects, it's been a fantastic year for parliaments. Not structurally, unfortunately. They found that the clock tower in Big Ben is slightly bending forward and it's going to collapse in about 4,000 years' time. So if that doesn't give Nick Clegg time to put together his House of Lords reform package, I don't know what will. But the great thing about Parliament is it's sprung back to life. Once again, it is a place for rebellions, great speeches, forceful characters, and most importantly is making a very healthy dent in Number 10's happiness index. That's what we like at The Spectator, so we're delighted to honour the men and women who are making it possible. The first award is for Newcomer of the Year. Now, this is one we didn't actually grant last year because we figured that not enough of the 200-odd new MPs had actually had a chance to make an impact. Now we've got the reverse problem. We've got so much talent and relatively few awards to give them. Not that these new MPs are lacking recognition. Some have already got a great name for writing racy fiction, like Matthew Hancock. Others are being tipped to be the next leader of their party, not just the one-day leader, but the next leader. Ladbrokes are now taking bets on Chuka Ummah and Rachel Reeves, but they're also taking bets on Sally Bercow as well. So 500 to 1 if anybody fancies it. So I wouldn't get too excited. But it is now possible to judge these new MPs by their achievements rather than by their potential. The judges give an honourable mention to Jesse Norman, who's campaigning on PFI, is just the most visible aspect of his incredible work on this. But our winner tonight is somebody, a former karate champion with just obscene amount of accomplishments under his belt. In his first month in Parliament, he secured a review into the way the interns were being chosen in the Foreign Office. He led the Prisoner of Votes Rebellion, he campaigned for laws on strike reform, and my personal favourite, he hit out against the obnoxious bigotry of feminism by saying it was time for us gents to burn our boxers. The gentlemen on the panel united and ganged up to give a Newcomer of the Year award to Dominic Raab.
Wow, look at that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you, Fraser. Thank you, Comrade. It's a real privilege to be part of this new intake and a tremendous honour to receive this award tonight. I think one of the things coming in as a newcomer, you hear a lot said about the tribal nature of politics, and it really occurred to me on my first day in the House of Commons. I took myself off to the tea room, that hallowed institution, and I sort of tucked myself away as inconspicuously as I could in the corner with a cup of tea and a paper. And I suddenly realised that I was getting a lot of weird looks, more than usual. And eventually, a former Labour minister came over and very politely said, "You're new here, aren't you? But you may just feel a bit more comfortable up at that end of the tea room." And I hadn't realised this, and I don't know how many of you do, but the House of Commons tea room is divided up along sectarian lines. So not only was I in the Labour zone, but I was deep in the Sheikh wing of the Labour zone of the House of Commons tea room. Anyway, for me it was a symptom that perhaps politics has got a bit too tribal. I'm delighted to see the Spectator seating plan is puncturing that particular taboo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dominic. I'd kind of forgotten how huge and chunky our awards were. My predecessor, but one, Boris Johnson, once described them as a tool for conclusively settling domestic disputes. That was before the Tories started to wonder why they weren't getting the women's vote, you know. I don't think it's... Now, next is Select Committee Chairman of the Year. This is an award designed, a new award, designed, we hope, for a new era of committees that can be relied to sink their fangs into some governmental flesh. It's partly David Cameron's fault because he set up this new system where the committee chairman would be independently elected, they wouldn't be whipped. You get people there who are leading these committees purely by their forensic ability to cause discomfort to the government if need be, the leadership of their own party if need be. And we like to think that David Cameron might have created a little bit of a monster. Ever since our winner tonight took charge, he placed a bomb, basically, under the financial establishment. He dragged Jean-Claude Trichet, kicking and screaming, to give evidence to MPs. He sent the heavies into the Financial Services Authority to ask why their report into RBS ran to just 370 words. But what clinched it was, in the words of one of our judges, the only time I've seen a smile wiped off George Osborne's face is when he comes to the Treasury Select Committee. Our committee chairman of the year is a former backbencher of the year, Andrew Tyree.
Well, thank you very much for this award. It means a great deal to me. I'm sorry that you didn't mention my extracurricular activity, which is, of course, on extraordinary rendition. A few years ago, when I really got going on that, I had this tip-off in the showers of the RAC Club from somebody I couldn't see because I wasn't wearing my glasses, who told me that I really should persist, and I have found it really very worthwhile persisting with that, because it is a funny thing, the tasks that you end up having to do. I'm now suing, believe it or not, the Pentagon, the CIA, the State Department, as well as the Foreign Office for more information on rendition. But that's my extracurricular activity, Fraser. My main task is to run the Treasury Select Committee, and on that I accept this on behalf of all my colleagues and all the staff who've worked extremely hard to keep the show on the road. We have a huge task ahead of us. I think we have played a small part in changing the culture of Parliament, and in particular, I think it is on the Select Committee corridor that, inasmuch as we have a fight back of Parliament, and I think we do at the moment, that it's now taking place. Thank you very much indeed for this award.
Thank you, Andrew. The reason we didn't mention extraordinary rendition is we didn't want to give Steve Hilton any ideas. Now, the next award, Campaign of the Year. There have been a vast number of very successful campaigns this year. Many of them were conducted outside Parliament and didn't qualify, like the No to AV campaign. I'm sure Nick will be devastated to know that he won't be handing a gong to one of their things. But the judges did commend one very good campaign, Sally Berker's extraordinary campaign to get her husband the sack, using a wide array of social media, very imaginative. But our winner, in just 6 months as a Labour MP, managed to persuade the government to reconsider its rules on a very unsexy topic, but something which affects the lives of millions, and that is these legal loan sharks who can charge as much as 4,000% to their victims. David Cameron paid a winner the ultimate compliment in private. He said that she has practiced perfect opposition politics, and you can hear those gritted teeth. Our campaigner of the year is the MP for Walthamstow, Stella Creasy.
Thank you, Fraser, and to the Spectator. This is a very, very unusual experience for me. I mean, you have to understand, I stood for Labour in 2010. I backed David Miliband for the leadership contest. I wanted Wagner to win the X Factor. I don't have a great track record in winning, so this is a very, very novel experience for me. And I'm also very honoured to get it from you, Nick, given the hard time I've given your ministers for this. It does feel a bit like Silvio Berlusconi giving an award to Germaine Greer, so thank you for that. But not least, I'm really delighted to get an award that my parents will have heard of. I've only ever won one other thing in my life, which was the Titmus Award from the LSE, and my mum thought I meant Fred, and my dad was rather excited because he thought I meant Abby. So thank you for something they'll know about as well. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Stella. If you don't have a very good experience in winning, there's a place for you in the Conservative campaign team, actually. But there has been one. The next criteria is Inquisition of the Year. Now, there has been one great parliamentary inquisition this year, and one which has caught the attention of the world. The phone hacking scandal has shaken the most powerful throne in the media world and seen a tabloid newspaper collapse in shame and disgrace. I'm just glad I never wrote for him. And the sort of frog in my throat. Now, when the Culture, Media and Sport Committee asked to hear from James and Rupert Murdoch, they were told, sorry guys, we're a bit busy, try back in late August, perhaps we'll be free then. The committee chairman then reached for a lever that had been buried under a century of dust. He's dispatched the sergeant arms across London to Wapping with a piece of paper demanding that James and Rupert Murdoch appear in front of Parliament to give evidence, and if they didn't, it was on pain of admonishment or imprisonment in a cell under Big Ben, or as Liam Fox calls it, the office. But that day, when Rupert Murdoch was grilled by the committee members, it demonstrated to the country and beyond that even the most powerful media magnate is accountable to the people through Parliament. It really was a great day for democracy. A winner is the committee itself, but we'd like to call to collect it the man whom even James Murdoch calls Mr. Chairman, John Whittingdale.
I'm genuinely very honoured on behalf of the committee. I'm tempted to cause further offence to Campbell Fleming by attempting an Australian accent. I shan't do so, but I could say this is the most humble day of my life. I feel a bit of a fraud taking this because I'm doing a job which I love doing. Being a select committee chairman has been the most satisfying thing I've done in Parliament. We have, I think, tested the boundaries of parliamentary power over a number of times. We've had hearings into why the BBC felt it was right to allow Jonathan Ross and Russell Brand to interrogate Andrew Sachs. We've had David Treisman on the corruption at FIFA. We've had Peter Stringfellow trying to explain why lap dancing clubs are a good thing. But there has been nothing quite like the phone hacking scandal. And the revelation in the last few days that members of my committee were followed around by News of the World journalists for a week. I'm tempted to put a request in under parliamentary power to try and find out what they discovered about my fellow committee members. But that might not be too good an idea. But it has been the most extraordinary experience. I think I would like to echo Andrew Tari in paying tribute to the staff of the committee. We have tested the boundaries of parliamentary power, and I hope will continue to do so. But in doing so, I think we have put great strains on the clerks who serve the committee, and I would like to thank them for their help. But the other thing about select committees, the reason I enjoy it, they're non-partisan. We act as a team, we all get on very well, and I've made a great deal of friends chairing the committee, and I'd just like to finish by paying tribute to all my members, but in particular, we have very sadly lost two members this year who are colleagues and friends, David Cairns and Alan Keane. Thank you.
Well done. Next is Backbencher of the Year. Now, there are two ways of seeing the backbenches of the House of Commons. One is to see them as a kind of dull waiting room while you sit there and plan and plot and advance your ministerial career and work out whether gender reassignment surgery really would improve your chances in the Conservatives. But there are others who see the backbenches as the perfect place to hold the government to account. Our winner tonight was one of the main actors in that great Europe rebellion. And having seen active service in the Gulf War, he had no problem with taking orders. The question he had to answer that day was, who does he take orders from, the government or his constituents? It was a kind of dilemma which a lot of those who spoke in that debate faced. He spent the last 7 years in his constituency telling his voters that he did actually want a referendum, but when he was told to vote against it, he decided to choose the backbenches and make a home there. He chose, in the choice between career and principle, he chose principle. He can't be with us tonight, he's in America, but Bernard Jenkins is here to collect the award on behalf of our winner, Adam Holloway.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Adam is in New York. I mean, you will know that he is a tremendous expert and enthusiast on the government's policies in Afghanistan, and he is actually trying to find out how much enthusiasm there is in the United States for some kind of negotiated settlement in Afghanistan. But he asked me to say he's not a one-club golfer. He's also was the first Brit, apart from journalists, to be on the front line in Libya this year. He is an extraordinary man, a former soldier, a former war reporter, journalist, quite the opposite of the political anoraks that we so often expect to see in Parliament. I think he's a very precious friend of mine. I think he's an extraordinary person, that the sort of person we need more of in politics. And Fraser, you mentioned one or two of the comments he made in his speech, and I remarked during the debate that his really was the speech of the night. And if I may just quote one or two of his words. He said, "What we are talking about today is not just Britain's relationship with the EU, but the authority and legitimacy of this chamber." He pointed out, Nick, that the Deputy Prime Minister was one of the loudest protagonists for a referendum on the European Union. He quoted you, Nick. He said, this is what you said, Nick, the Liberal Democrats believe we should have a real vote on Europe, whether we should be in or out of Europe. The public back our position by a margin of 2-1. There we are, Nick. He agreed with you. And he finished with advice to his colleagues, which Fraser referred to. They should not rebel against the people who sent them here. And I think if we have more of that in our Parliament, I think there's a great future for our Parliament. And I accept this on his behalf. Thank you very much.
next award is another new one for our coalition era, Double Act of the Year. Now, coalitions are, of course, as David Cameron says, the successful coalition is the art of managing tensions between political opposites in the government. And this award is designed to honour those who do so with patriotism and panache. Our winners tonight certainly do that. One is a die-hard liberal, somebody who still wants to join the euro, who disdains the tabloid press, a man whom Nick Clegg is proud to call one of his own cabinet members. The other is a kind of Tory Boudica with an instinctive distrust of European courts. When they clash, they do so with verve, but they get along as colleagues, and their relationship is such that at least the loser will always buy the winner dinner. Their disagreement over a cat named Maya certainly enlivened an otherwise deathly dull Conservative Party conference. I would like to thank them for that. The cat might not be with us tonight. We gather it's been deported. But we might just have a substitute. Ladies and gentlemen, our double act of the year are the nation's favourite political love cats, the Justice Secretary and the Home Secretary, Ken Clarke and Theresa May.
Well, thank you very much. I must say this is a great surprise to win this award tonight. I suppose if I'd had to put money on who might get the double act of the year, I guess I might have said Chris Hoon and Vicky Pryce. But I'm also tempted to say, actually, that looking at Ken and Nick here together, I'm a little surprised that they didn't get the double act of the year. But then I suppose, Ken, you and I do make quite a good double act in that I lock them up and you let them out. So...
Well, I didn't know Theresa was here. I thought I might have the opportunity of speaking on behalf of Theresa May. That pleasure lies ahead. No, it's delightful to have this award. I have won the odd one before, so you're now inventing new ones for myself and Theresa. But delighted to be here. I'd just like to mention that all these sad and unkind references to Silvio Berlusconi trouble me, actually. I feel a deep sense of sadness. He's that rarity in European politics, a near contemporary, and he has moved on. At least it reminds you I am still here. Actually, Theresa and I, outside politics, we get on very well inside politics. But outside politics, we have one interest in common. When I first came back to the front bench and we sat down together in the party conference and the journalists moved over to photographers, first time in my life I found they were photographing our shoes without either of us being present. So we're both renowned for our distinctive footwear. We actually get on very closely together. Our relationship has not yet developed to the point where we're demonstrating it by buying a cat together. But this is indeed going to be a unique award, and I'm delighted to share it with Theresa. And she keeps putting him in. Somebody's got to make room for him. I'm doing my best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's good to see Theresa's got the cat. That means you'll never be deported, Theresa. You're safe now. Speech of the year. Now, sometimes MPs try to cover up the absence of argument with some kind of grandiloquent rhetoric, as if the sheer volume of hot air will qualify them for one of Chris Huhne's carbon credits. But our winner tonight knows that the best speeches don't actually need much time. He delivered what was probably the shortest speech in political history. Shorter, probably, than the one George Osborne's going to make when he's explaining his growth strategy. It was during the EU rebellions that our winner stood up and said of the proposed referendum, quite simply, if not now, when? And that was it. His forward speech was over before Bill Cash had even cleared his throat. Flawless brevity, flawless pertinence, and let's see if he can beat it in his acceptance speech tonight. Please welcome the MP for Broxbourne, Charles Walker.
I'm far too happy to get this, obviously. Look, it's going to be a slightly longer speech because I need to thank my children's rabbits. Because every Sunday, my wife says, clean out the rabbits. And they go, not now, Mum. And she goes, if not now, when? So that's the genesis of the speech, I'm afraid. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. And here is me working out, tracing it back to Hillel the Elder and Primo Levi and stuff like that. But no, it's a rabbit. Great. You should get her a job in the Treasury. Now, next award, Survivor of the Year. This is another hotly contested category in an era where it's pretty much impossible to get sacked from David Cameron's government, although many have tried. The judges commended Andrew Lansley for his efforts. They nodded towards Vince Cable for his kind of sack me if you dare demeanour. It's really quite ballsy. But our winner really does stand out. He is somebody who survived, coming second in a leadership contest after coming up with a very unkind nickname for his party leader. Still, he was kept on. He survived a very awkward social media moment, which might have finished lesser men. He survived walking into the Lion's Den as energy secretary, and whatever happened on the M40, or whatever speed he was going, he seems to have survived that too, although we'll see what the Essex police have to say about that. He is one of Parliament's great communicators. At least I think that's what Nick meant when he said there was nobody better at getting his points across. His joke, not mine. He can't be here tonight, unfortunately. He's he's a survivor. He's also stuck in traffic. He's not driving as quickly as he used to do those days. But the man with his famous fingerprints on the Survivor of the Year award is Chris Huhne. And we asked his office if they'd send a friend to pick it up for him. They went oddly quiet. I'm assuming they didn't send anybody now. Okay, so Nick, why don't you pick it up in his... Yes, speech.
I shall keep Chris up to speed with events here.
You speed joke, the gift that keeps on giving. Right. The next award, the Reader's Representative. The judges took a step back for this award, and they let readers of The Spectator pick their own champion. As you all know, readers of The Spectator are a perfect microcosm of British society, perfectly representative, a fountain of good sense. They did, however, come up with a few offbeat suggestions. Adam Werty was nominated for giving a personal stimulus to the airline industry, for example. But we had to pick an MP, and the idea was that they would pick somebody who the judges might not automatically go for. They did pick one who has not been very good at making the headlines, but has been a faultless campaigning backbench MP. He's led the charge on soft prison sentences, postcode justice, knife crime, CCTV cameras. It was, for our readers, an intoxicating mix. So, the Spectator Reader's Representative of the Year, and there is no higher honour, let me tell you, is the MP for Shipley, Philip Davis.
thank you very much. This is a great honour for me. I'm not sure what it says about your readers, Fraser. Not a great deal, I wouldn't have thought. And I think Andrew was bragging earlier that he had 13 cabinet members who subscribe to The Spectator. That number's probably going down now as a result of this award. I don't think that this award spoke for many of those cabinet members who were your subscribers. Ken, I don't think you voted for this one, did you? It is a great honour. I am a permanent backbencher. I made it clear in my maiden speech that I would always remain on the backbenches, and I did so because I looked at all the talented people in my intake and I thought, I'm never going to get promoted, so it's far better to tell your constituents that you're going to decline a promotion on principle. And then when you don't get promoted, everyone says, well, he's a good lad, he stuck to his guns, didn't he? It's far better than always striving and never being good enough. So it's the one thing that me and David Cameron agree about, that I should never be promoted. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Philip. That's one MP you won't be getting a sex change then, but you can't claim them on expenses anyway. They have looked into this. But now, the next award, Minister of the Year. If politics is the Grand National, then tonight's thoroughbred winner certainly clipped a few fences in his first year. But his mount never collapsed, and this year he has proven why politics is so often worth the fight. A lot of people talk about reform, but look across governments and almost everywhere, reform is in chains. It's facing opposition either by awkward coalition partners of any political hue, or defeated by the permanent opposition of a civil service. But there is one department where reform and progress is real, tangible, and is changing lives already. Our winner tonight has created 5 times more city academies than Labour managed. They're now educating 750,000 children in these academies that weren't there this time 2 years ago. His 18 months in office have been exhausting, and on occasion the fight has been dirty. But as Woody Allen said about sex, if it's not dirty, you're not doing it right. Now, the man, a winner tonight, who is doing reform and doing it right, is the Education Secretary, Michael Gove.
I'd like to thank the Spectator and Nick for this award. As I'm sure you'll agree, Nick is looking better than ever in government. And we read at the weekend that he has given up a bad habit, partly at Miriam's suggestion. Something that dates back to his student days, which he's now abandoned because he's taken on the responsibilities of government. Every night he used to go out 4 or 5 times and then come back looking knackered. But he has given that bad habit up. He's no longer taking mobile telephone calls from Tim Farron. Can I also acknowledge that to be Minister of the Year is, in many respects, a happy accident? Because I know that actually some of the most talented, some of the most able, some of the most visionary people, and certainly some of those with the greatest economic knowledge, aren't actually serving as ministers at the moment. But don't worry, Matt Hancock and Nick Bowles won't be on the backbenches for long. And I'm grateful to Matt and to Nick and to all my colleagues, Conservative and Liberal Democrat, for the support that they've shown me over the course of the last year. I just wanted to also reflect on the way in which, as Fraser said, that reform is a bit like sex. Unless it's dirty, you are not doing it right. Well, there's something else which I would say which is true about reform, and another comparison which I draw between reform and sex. And that is, if you do it on your own, it's rather sad. Certainly not dignified. And I couldn't have achieved anything that I've achieved without a fantastic team. And I'm grateful for the support that I've had from my ministers. I'm grateful for the support that I've had in particular from Sarah Tether, and also from Jonathan Hill and Nick Gibb and Tim Lawton. I'm also grateful for the support that I've had from the civil servants at the Department for Education. But above all, I'm grateful to two members of a much maligned tribe. I'm grateful to my two special advisors, Henry de Zoet and Dominic Cummings. They're the real heroes of reform. I'm just the front man. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right. Our penultimate award is Politician of the Year. 10 years ago, our winner actually retired from frontline politics. For 5 years, he played dead, giving false hope to unionists and both surviving members of the Scottish Conservative Party. But he came back with a vengeance. And today, although unionists like myself hate to admit it, he is perhaps one of the most successful politicians, not just in Britain, but probably in Europe. That sounds exaggerated, but think about it. Who else started a political campaign 14 points behind and went on not just to win, but to win an absolute majority of seats? It's enough even to give Nick Clegg some hope. But, not many MPs win a victory so emphatic that all three of the rivals resigned, putting all three parties into chaos. He did try to be with us here tonight, but luckily John Reid intercepted him at the border. He didn't have his passport, and the way things are going, he'll probably need it. I was trying to work out if his grin would be bigger than you can fit on this television screen. I'm not quite sure, but let's see. Our Politician of the Year is the man that no one in Westminster wants to fight, the First Minister of Scotland, Alex Salmond.
Good evening, and thank you so much for this wonderful thing. I really am very grateful. It's only important government business, and we have a bit in Scotland occasionally, that keeps me away this evening, but I know you're going to have a great time. I don't get to see you guys as much these days, but I do keep up with all your lunatic ravings in the Coffee House blog. It's obligatory reading in the Scottish Government. Now, I was thinking at this time of year, the Borders Reivers used to nip across Hadrian's Wall and liberate a few cattle and sheep from the nasty English. Consider me a latter-day Borders Reiver. I've nipped across Hadrian's Wall and liberated this wonderful award. Mind you, if we could liberate the country as well, that'd be good. In the meantime, enjoy yourselves and have a great evening.
Right. Make a big brother. Now for our final award of the evening, Parliamentarian of the Year. I'd like to invite Sarah Arkle, the Vice Chair of Threadneedle, to come to the stage here. It's said sometimes that Parliament is just a rubber stamp, but something tells me nobody who works in the Department of Health will be saying that for some time to come. Perhaps the most dramatic moment in Parliament this year came where the flagship bill of the British government was halted midway through Parliament by an 81-year-old peer armed with nothing more than her sheer force of personality. And what a force. She is a wartime evacuee who served in Harold Wilson's government. She set up the SDP, but this is not a Lifetime Achievement Award. This is an award for being the single most effective member of either house. When she stood athwart the NHS bill and yelled, "Stop!" her party rallied behind her. Some call her Cheryl the Girl. The British government right now is probably too scared to call her anything other than ma'am. But she is here tonight, straight from doing battle in tonight's House of Lords debates. Please welcome Baroness Shirley Williams.
Much Sir Fraser Nelson and the Spectator for showing such an amazing degree of independence of mind as to give me this particular award. I had two nervous moments tonight. The first was when I suddenly thought that Alex Salmond was going to throw the prize at us all from the middle of the television screen. The second moment was when I realised that my boss and leader, Nick, was going to be the person in charge of the awards tonight. And I knew that when he referred to looking after and leading Liberal Democrats was like herding cats, that without any doubt the most recalcitrant cat was me. I also realised that when he got to the point of discussing his recent meetings with Dr. Berlusconi, I had, to my sense of absolute horror, I saw Andrew pulling out his pen and starting to make notes. And I thought, oh, please God, not Nick again. Anyway, let me say that it's been a lovely evening. I was delighted to see Teresa bringing out her cat. But I was sad to see that when it came to the question of having a hush puppies, it must be said that the Minister for Justice was rather recalcitrant about bringing his own pet out of his pocket. So it's been a lovely evening. I'm very grateful to you all. And I'd like to say one other thing. I was very pleased by your selection of two of the chairmen of select committees, the chairman of the Select Committee, John Whittingdale, and the chairman of the Select Committee on the Treasury, Andrew Tyree, both of whom are men I greatly respect. But I'd like to say about them both that they have, I think, restored the striking edge of Parliament. I think they've done a great deal for democracy in this country, and I'd like to say that I'm delighted to be part of a ceremony which honours them as well as it honours me. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Well, the judges argued about many of the awards tonight. Some of the arguments went on even until about 2 hours ago, but that was a no-brainer, really. Now, I'd like to... that's it for this year. Well, not quite. I would like to invite all the lucky winners on stage for a group photo. And as you walk up, I'd also like to say that don't believe anything you read about the curse of the Spectator Award. Just ask last year's Peer of the Year, Lord Young. It's complete nonsense. So thank you, Threadneedle, thank you, Paul Roger, and can all of the lucky winners come up to the stage, please, with their thing for resolving domestic disputes.